All right, welcome to Outdated and Uneducated Week 6 preview show. What's going on?
Hey man, how's it going? I'm just chilling at home now, not really watching Thursday night football because, well, I don't have any fantasy players playing and I got real busy. How's the game? Is it any good?
It actually got kind of tight. I mean, it's done now.
Yeah.
Patriots, or sorry, I want to say Patriots because of Tom
Yeah,
Brady, but
well, yeah.
the Bucks won 2022. So
Okay.
it was basically, same thing. The Bucks jumped out to a big lead, and the Eagles came back, but there are just some issues with their play calling, and they are doing so many different screens. And
Yeah.
I mean, Jalen Hurts had a good game,
Yeah.
but overall, the offense it was just it fell flat. And again, Miles Sanders didn't do much. So
Yeah, I couldn't decide on your poll, so I just didn't end up voting. Cuz I couldn't decide between bench or guilty flex is what I was stuck between.
yeah, and in one league, I actually had to start Kenneth Gainwell, and then he didn't really do well either. So um,
Yeah, I'm kind of on redraft leagues. I still have Gainwell in one league, but I'm not like feeling awesome about it. Like I'm picking up Bears third string running backs over him right now.
Well, and you have to, yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess we can kind of get right into one of our games we want to talk about. Obviously, I got my Bears stuff on. It's
Oh yeah.
Bears Packers week,
It's a big week.
and yeah, and I'm not. I've gone back and forth. I started with thinking that it was going to be a blowout Packers. The Bears are getting some defensive players back, and they're playing well on defense, so they have a shot to kind of make it close. I just I don't know if they have enough to get the win.
Yeah, it's definitely that's an uphill battle for sure, especially with the way it's going on offense. We saw some really good improvements from Justin Fields, who actually looked really impressive with only the minimum support from the play calling, right? Like there was
Right.
still a bunch of not just nothing plays, right? They were like, why is this called? Why are we like that? If they could just build the game a little more around him there. Matt Nagy is really starting to get on my nerves because Justin Fields looks really good and he's looking casual, like he's just like, oh yeah, no problem. When the
Hmm.
throw's open, no problem. Looks like he's processing a lot quicker than say Trey Lance, right? Who's having a
Right.
little trouble hitting that in time, maybe not looking quite as ready, which is understandable, of course, a lot less games under his belt. But yeah, so it's frustrating because you could see a scenario where this would be like a great game if the play calling were better on the Bears side because the play calling is going to be excellent on the Packers side, been great for 3 years, right? So yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle, but it's possible.
Well, yeah, and with that play calling, I heard obviously they need to do a lot more with the design runs, things like that for
Yeah,
Fields. Especially with the Packers with their deficiencies with the run, stopping the run. Uh, that's definitely something that they would need to do, and also getting Fields just kind of in a rhythm of making plays,
yeah.
so we'll see what happens.
Less shotgun.
Right, less shotgun, yeah,
but,
and
hey,
and it's interesting. Obviously, the late developments today with Damian Williams now being out because of COVID. So,
yep. I picked up my guy, and actually, all I forgot his name. I know his first name's Khalil, but I forgot his last name. But he's on my bench right now.
oh, he's got a great last name, Herbert.
Khalil Herbert, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought that
yeah.
was a weird one. Yeah, I was able to snap him up off free agent real quick, and I might not even play him. And this is kind of a dick move. Maybe people don't like him, but I don't want people having free running backs in my league.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I
totally.
mean?
That's totally what I do.
Like,
Yeah,
no free meals. You know, like.
right.
And I might play. I might have to play him, right? I had Williams, so it's not like that's not a great. I don't feel great about that, but I might have to play him this week.
Well, with the Bears, it's really a developmental year from my standpoint, and I actually like Herbert getting more play because he has shown a lot. He's a lot of talent there, and you just don't know what you're going to have long term from Williams. So I
Yeah.
think it's good. It'll good to see be good to see what we have from Herbert as a Bears fan, and maybe he can even surpass Montgomery in coming years. So
Oh, okay. So there's a little hype building there. I
Mhm.
hadn't heard anything on the Herbert front. I'm sure people will forgive me, but on the Bears land, is people aren't upset about that? There's a little hype there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they were starting to get kind of, I believe, like more of a timeshare. They were
Yeah,
getting
cool.
him more action, and I like his talent. Montgomery. I don't know if he has as much of the burst. And I actually talked about
Yeah,
this a little bit with my Packers guy, Average Cheese. A shout out to Dale from Average Cheese.
cheese.
That was a fantastic talk with him on Bears Packers week, and we talked a little bit about Montgomery not having that explosiveness as well.
Yeah.
And you know, so the one thing, the Packers, they get flacked for being a terrible run um, defense.
Yeah.
And they've had the same players over and over again, year after year, and they really haven't addressed that. But the right, but the one thing that they're not giving up a lot of big plays.
Yeah, and that's kind of a lot of teams are just trying to do that. I think a lot of defenses, in a sense, have thrown up the white flag mostly in between the 20s at this point because it's like, look, we can't touch the receivers, we can't touch the quarterback. Holding is going, against us more than it's going against the offensive line, right? And so I feel like a lot of teams are trying to just not give up the big play. It's a too high league now. It feels like, right? Which is a shift from maybe five years ago, even when it was everyone was trying to be the Seahawks, right, and really play single high. But yeah, so that's interesting, and it's gonna happen. I don't see a lot of big plays coming from the Bears this game. They could definitely
Agreed.
win it though, right? So the Bengals just played with them. Like the Packers are not invincible this season. This is the Packers division to lose 100%. Like
Oh, absolutely.
it's not even close. But they are beatable every week for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting because they are, we talked about even with all of the needs, overall on their roster for the draft for next year. There's
Hmm.
so many needs, but really the biggest thing it comes down to is Rodgers.
Yeah.
I think he really gets up for this game.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean honestly, I think that's that's where it's always rests, right? This team,
Hmm.
right? And this is where they have found success, and it's a really good model, right? Aaron Rodgers, a good pass blocking offensive line, and Devontae Adams. It's like, okay, we can run the ball too, by the way. Just everyone, so like that's just a formula that's going to be tough to beat, and I could see Aaron Rodgers getting up big for this game because that run defense is going to be strong from the Bears for sure, has been all year. So it's gonna take an Aaron Rodgers performance to win this for sure, but it kind of always does for the Packers, so that's not saying much.
It does, and the one glimmer of hope that I've heard, with the Bears is, if they can get pressure to Rodgers, that's when he gets thrown off, right?
Yeah.
And I think I see them doing that. They're getting players back from injury in on that defensive line, so that's helpful. But I don't think that they quite have enough, to really, yeah, Aaron
They don't have the
Rodgers.
juice.
They don't.
They don't
They
have the juice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I see it being close, early
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and I see them hanging with them, just like they've done, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For
So
the most.
I see it being Average Cheese podcast. He thought the score was gonna be 27-17, and I tended to agree with that because I didn't necessarily see the Bears scoring many more points than 20 in this
Mm-hmm.
game. And now that with Damian Williams out, unproven Herbert, he
Yeah.
could have a big game, but I just think that really limits them offensively. And I think Mooney's going to have a decent game.
Yeah.
Um, but I
I have
just
a start sit decision on Mooney for sure. Actually, here
oh
we go.
yeah,
This is good. This
yeah,
is
go ahead,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because I don't think because he is right now. So I got Jefferson, who is questionable, Waddle and Mooney right now. Not a great situation actually. Um, and actually no, that's it because my other guy's injured. Never mind. I'm forced to start Mooney, so that feels good.
Yeah, and he really has a good connection with Fields for
Hmm.
the big plays. I mean, that's the potential with the big plays.
Yeah.
Is Mooney, I just don't see them being able to, really punch it in and get the touchdowns as easily, So,
Yeah.
and really, actually, on the other side, the Packers have also had a hard time with their red zone offense,
Yeah, big
which is
time. They haven't been
surprising.
able to. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been a little bit. The run game has been like slightly weaker this year. It feels like.
Hmm.
That's kind of a pulse check that I don't have any stats to back it up, but it feels like the run game has not been quite as effective this year. Not that they can't, right? And I think that's played a lot into it. Devonte Adams was never like he's the best wide receiver in the NFL in my opinion. I don't even think
Absolutely.
it's particularly close.
Yep.
Well, it gets close to the top, but it's obvious, right?
Right.
Um, but he was never. I don't think it was ever sustainable that he was going to be catching that many high percentage of touchdowns in the end zone. Devonte Adams was catching like like 2-3 touchdown passes a game. It felt like right, and like
Hmm.
they were every different kind, or like outs, fades, like screens at the line of scrimmage, right? Like, and every single one of them was just going in. So it feels like that is not a sustainable like it's fairly sustainable like it should be less sustainable because Adams is so good, but it's regressing to the mean, which I think is probably the cause of that.
Well, yeah, in this week, Jalen Johnson for the Bears, he's been solid. He's going to
Yeah,
try to take on
yeah,
him. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it'll be just to see how good Johnson is, and Adams is
big
going to get
matchup.
his.
Yeah.
I think I see this as being a get right game for Robert Tanyan.
Does he get right games? has he
Well,
has
he
he
and he
proven himself good enough to get the get right game?
well, I only because he's with Aaron Rodgers, right?
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
And
okay.
he's really struggled, and maybe Jalen Johnson, takes a little bit. You can't really stop at Adams, but I see Tanya getting those touchdowns. I see him,
Yeah.
getting actually 1 to 2 touchdowns in the red zone, and I see the Packers winning actually 24-13 in this game.
24-13. I
Yeah.
was thinking along the same lines. I thought that was a decent spread by average cheese. But
Hmm.
I was almost did this on the screen just a little bit lower. Yeah, but speaking of I that is the matchup I'm most intrigued by. Jalen Johnson versus Devonte Adams,
Yes,
because the way that plays out kind of dictates the matchup for a couple years to come, right? At
it
least,
does. Yeah.
right? Okay, so what do we got here?
Yeah, I just
Oh,
want to kind of see some of the
oh,
scores
that's
here.
yeah, sure. Oh, okay, absolutely, yeah,
So yeah, when you kind of look at it, yeah, I mean, you talk about the spread. Um, the Packers would they started out. I mean, it was versus the Lions 35. They got 30 versus the Niners.
yeah.
27 versus the Steelers was supposedly a decent defense, and
It's
25
respectable.
versus the Bengals. So yeah, it's kind of in that 20s range. They're
Yeah, 24-17 feels about right then, because the Bears defense has been playing better. Is this at Soldier Field or is this Lambeau?
It is at Soldier Field, correct?
Soldier
Yeah,
Field. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
no one plays their best game on that field.
Well,
So yeah, I could see it kind of coming together in the middle with like a medium low scoring game for sure.
and I just don't I don't think the Bears are ready. And it was
Yeah.
interesting. I saw, or at least heard on the radio, Aaron Rodgers was asked, and I brought this in the up in my Packers podcast as well. Um, Aaron Rodgers was asked the was it 16 quarterbacks that he's faced in his years versus the Bears, and if he could name them all. And his response was, including the playoffs.
Oh,
Yeah,
he
and
would be able to.
oh yeah, and he was trolling. He
Yeah,
definitely like gets up. He was trolling, so he
yeah.
even trolled even more so. So they asked him to name those, and he said because he said he could. So he named four, and then said that was about it. And he said he had a meeting to go to, and he didn't want to. So basically, he was, I believe, trolling the
Just
Bears.
trolling the Bears. Oh
Right,
my
and
goodness.
saying all these other quarterbacks like Matt Barkley and all these other ones were just so inconsequential to him, and all of
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough history of quarterbacks. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty brutal. But now you
So
got one that looks pretty good right now though. So there you go. You just
that's
gotta
a
just get yourself a new coach. Honestly, I don't like to call for heads. I don't have enough clout to call for heads, right? But like, I would like to see a different head coach there. I think just for my pure enjoyment of watching Justin Fields play, I would like to see what he can do. Right,
absolutely.
so I'd like to see a new one on there, new play caller, which probably means a new coach, just new direction. Because if you've stuck with this for so long and you've just constantly proven that you just can't do the main thing that you were brought on to do, right? Which is like call offensive plays and lead a creative offense, right? And that, it's time to let someone else give it a try.
It is. Well, speaking of a couple coaches that do have, some really good
Oh
offensive
yeah, there
play
we go.
calling, we got the Browns and the Cardinals.
Yeah, especially the Browns. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun matchup for sure. Oh my goodness. I do. Oh man. I see the Cardinals winning this game. Like when I think about it, like just
Hmm.
right there in front of me, it's like it's got to be the Cardinals, right? Because we just saw what Justin Herbert did to the Browns, and
Hmm.
they got they had a lot of plays that didn't necessarily like. So you have your tight end just like ripping off like a 50 yards after the catch for a touchdown. You got Nick Chubb who does do this every once in a while, like bowling through defenders down the sideline for whatever the 40, 50, 60 yard touchdown, right? And
Hmm.
those are plays that the Browns are capable of, but it's like the Browns hit every variable in their favor. Like they got the two massive like inconsistent plays and they still lost. So I don't know how they're going to hold up to just having to do it again. Can you do it again?
Well, yeah, and so Arizona is they've given up the second most rushing yards per
Mm,
carry in the league this season.
yeah, that's a good
So
point. Yeah.
so that and the Browns are actually 3-point favorites in this at home. So
Yeah.
it it's really interesting. I don't know if Arizona really gets the credit that they should, right?
Yeah, I think that it's pretty outrageous what they've done, right? Everyone had them pegged as the last place team in that division. It was fairly universal that
Hmm.
that they were gonna that they were like gonna be the fourth place, like a good fourth place team in the hardest division in football. But
Hmm.
they're crushing it, and it hasn't been an easy schedule either.
Yeah,
it's
you
not
want me
been
to
as
go ahead?
hard. It's not been as hard as the Chargers, right? But it has been. You beat the Rams, you beat middle of the pack teams like Vikings, Tennessee, you whoop Jacksonville,
Yeah, let me
and then
pull
you
this
beat
up
San
here.
Francisco in a division game, right? And that last game was rough, but that's a division game against a defense that knows you, against a good defense that isn't always perfect, but yeah, I don't think they're getting enough credit at all. I think Kyler Murray's playing like the MVP.
Right, and so I was just kind of looking about some notes on that. There's one play versus the 49ers that is really was kind of indicative of like how well they've been doing, and
Yeah,
a few different outlets wrote about it. So it was a goal line play and on the 9 yard line, and basically, um, you know, DeAndre Hopkins had a one on one.
yeah,
He was one on one, and Murray, checked out of the play that he was in and checked into that because he saw that, threw it up,
yeah,
touchdown, right?
yeah, yeah.
And they were just talking about how in previous years how they were not able to do that. And number one, Kyler Murray, he is really taking a step forward, checking in and out of plays. So he's really
Yeah.
taking that leadership.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
it started to click for him, and that was, I don't, I understand why it took a long time. You have a really young coach who's honestly suffering through some pretty decent sized growing pains himself, right? And like everyone liked his house, sure, but he he wasn't being as creative as he needed to be with his play calling. He was getting a little stale. He was doing that thing that and I'm blanking on the name. What is the is the name of the Cardinals coach? That's funny. I'm
Oh,
trying to think of it.
Cliff
Cliff
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury. How do you forget that name?
Right.
Right, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and he was doing the college coach thing where it's like, this is
Hmm.
my offense. When it's like, no, that doesn't work. Like it'll work for 5 weeks for sure, but then it's over. And now we see like adjustments, and there's just better personnel on offense. And you
Yes.
were talking about the red zone. You're talking about the goal line, but the red zone. How do you stop this team in the red zone? Kyler Murray can run it in, and they have DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, by the way, AJ Green, who's having a resurgence on the other side who can body anyone in the end zone, even if he
Yep.
does lose a step. Right? This is a team to contend with for sure.
The only thing that will hurt them is Max Williams, their tight end, was he was
Hmm.
starting to be just a good extra option if everybody else was covered. He is injured and out now, I believe, for the rest of the season.
No.
But he does. The Cardinals do have, and Cliff Kingsbury does have all the weapons that he really needs now.
Yeah.
You're right. He can't stop. You really can't stop the offense that way. And now to add the two running backs, the 1-2 punch, that helps as well.
Yeah, and I love that backfield approach too. It's really funky running game, but they do run the ball effectively, right? They because the Cardinals know that they want to pass the ball primarily, right? Why you have what you have, like you want to direct your strategy towards your team skill set, right? So they want to pass the ball, but they run the ball really effectively on draw plays. Edwards out of the backfield is a really great option. And then Connor is no slouch, right? He was never like, he had one kind of breakout season, like a half a breakout season, but he was never a star really. But he's an NFL running back who can pound you up the middle for sure.
And it's interesting on the other side of the ball.
Oh
So,
yeah,
looking at Baker Mayfield, he has not thrown an interception in the last 4 games.
nice.
So with that, it really is inherently tough to trust Baker. I don't know what it is.
You can. It's his play. It's his
It,
play. That's what it
right,
is, right?
right.
He's proven that going into a game, he might play good, he might play bad, but you can't trust what he's going to do one or the other.
And right now, I feel like Kyler Murray's taking that step.
Hmm.
Mayfield will need to take that step, but I really think the Cardinals defense is really solid. They're really improved. Buda
That's
Baker,
been playing really well. Yeah.
and I'm thinking Mayfield's going to throw an interception here.
Hmm.
It's inevitable. He's going to try to force something. He might have to with that offense.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I could see. Yeah. There's the pass rush could get to him. You could see him getting flustered easy. This is a good secondary. This is a good Cardinals secondary, right? Defenses are getting beat up all over the league. No one's like standing out as like the shutdown defense, right? It's like, hey, because it just doesn't seem like it exists anymore almost. But this is a solid defense. They've been playing towards the top of the league all season. I could definitely see them forcing some turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
I could easily see, and I'm surprised they're favored by 3, but I could definitely like easily be convinced of the Browns taking over this game on the ground. It's like, okay, you're not going to see it the same way the Vikings beat Seattle, right? You're just not going to
Yep.
see the ball in the second half. Doesn't
Yep.
matter if we don't score points because you're going to. So I could definitely see the Browns taking the game over that way if they don't need to use Baker Mayfield. If he throws, say, 20 something passes, 20 or couple more maybe, then there's a good chance to win this game, I feel like. Or he could go off because he can go off from time to time. Baker could go off in this game like he did against the Chiefs in the playoffs, and
Mm-hmm.
you could definitely see it.
And one key with him having a good game is Chandler Jones is going to be out now with COVID.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
very helpful. That's why it's by 3.
Yes.
Oh,
So that
okay.
I've been
Man.
going back and forth. You have that.
Hmm.
The Cardinals have had a lot of injuries. On their offensive line. That's
Yeah, that's true. Miles Garrett could take over.
mhm. So, but I really I trust in Kyler Murray right now in what he's doing,
Yeah.
and I trust in just the overall makeup of that team. And I just I'm thinking it's going to be 27-24 Cardinals.
27 so far. I like the low score a little bit on that. And they've proven they can do a grinded out game like they did against San Francisco last week. Ugly game. But right, you're going to have ugly games against division opponents. Right? It's going to
Absolutely.
happen. So like you win those games, right? Like believe me, there's uglier that week. You can look no further than my Vikings to see an uglier win in the division.
Right.
There's the fourth quarter comeback y'all are waiting for. But yeah, absolutely. I kind of lost my train of thought there because I started thinking about the Vikings versus the Lions, and my black hole
Hey,
started forming in my brain. But I'm not mad about it. That was actually kind of fun to watch.
hey, anytime you think about the Cardinal or the Vikings, I get it. I totally get it. So
Well,
who do you got?
yeah, so I'll take. I want to say I want to say that Kyler's going to put up over 30 points on this defense. I want to see like a 20. I could see a 28, like 3 touchdowns on the ground,
Yeah.
from the Browns, right, and maybe one passing touchdowns, get 28 points on the board, but lose to Kyler Murray because it's going to come down to something crazy, and when it comes down to something crazy, you want Kyler Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Agreed. Well, speaking of players that when things, the chips are down,
All
Lamar
right.
Jackson, right? I mean,
Yeah, this is the matchup of the weekend for sure. And
mhm.
both of these quarterbacks, Lamar clearly has just made a massive statement. But Herbert's been making statements. He's been beating the best teams in football. All right, probably the hardest schedule of the 4-1 teams, I would say, are the Chargers.
Yeah, let me see here. I have it. Let me see if I can pull this up here. All right. Yeah, so he really has taken his game up to the next level, right?
Both of them feel like they have.
Yeah, yeah.
Lamar is passing the ball much better this year, or maybe more freely. It feels like.
Hmm.
But it looks more in control. Like he always had a good pass, right? I just didn't understand, and it's honestly beyond me to like mechanically see what's changed. But
Right.
he seems like the whole team seems more comfortable with him throwing the ball. And keep in mind who he's throwing to. He's throwing to a pretty good tight end, like actually a really good tight end. Who am I kidding? Really good tight end. Mark
Yeah,
Andrews is incredible.
yeah.
But and some third string receivers. I guess Brown is good. Brown is good. Like, but it's not a star-studded receiving core, right? Hollywood Brown is good. Mark Andrews is really good. But there's teams with way better punches than that. I would say that's bottom third of the league as far as 1-2 pass catching punch of Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews. So it's been really impressive what he's done. Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson this year.
Yeah, and on to your point, one of the main weaknesses of the Chargers' pass defense is that they've given up the second most points per game, fantasy points per game, to tight ends. So,
Yeah,
this could be another Mark Andrews game, and I've
hope it.
that yeah, that really killed me in last
Oh
week.
yeah, that's rough. Yeah.
Um, so, and let's see some other notes on the Chargers defense. They've got the worst run defense, and so do we start Latavius Murray?
Yeah. Yeah, do it. I think that you can predict. I trust the play calling decisions that come out of Baltimore in general. So you
Yeah.
can. I think it's fairly safe to predict that if you think that if you see a team that's weak against the run, that there's going to be more running on Baltimore's side of the ball. It's just how they do it, right? They try to maximize every advantage, and it's obviously working, right? But yeah, I would start Tay Train. I give Tay Train a guilty flex, as you put it earlier, a
Yes, yes.
very very guilty, or put him in your RB1 to flex on your opponent. That's another fun
Oh,
one.
oh, there you go. There you go. Well, it is interesting. Yeah, looking at the Chargers, so they are pretty stout against the pass, but not
Yep.
against the tight end. So it kind of goes to your point of a lot of the defenses maybe forcing everything, you know,
Yeah.
less, big plays, and when you have a tight end like Mark Andrews, that's
You
and
can
a
do it.
quarterback, like with Lamar, you just it's really
Yeah.
tough to stop.
Yeah, it's tough to stop because the defense has to honor more things. They have to honor everything Lamar Jackson can do, which is as diverse of skill set as anyone in the NFL. Right, so you have to honor more, so there's more room for Lamar to hit these throws down the field. But man, if you talk about confidence in an offense, I have a lot of confidence in the Chargers offense. Oh my goodness. They are playing
Yeah.
absolutely lights out. It was amazing what they did to that Browns defense. It's a good defense. What happened? They have good safeties. How's Mike Williams getting back there?
Well, yeah,
Like,
and yeah, Mike Williams, he's had from all but one game, 7 to 8 catches a game. He's got 6 touchdowns this year. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He is, yeah, he is that guy, and
yeah,
it's interesting. I haven't really looked at Keenan Allen's numbers, but we expected Keenan Allen to be that guy. No one really expected
I
Mike
didn't.
Williams, you know?
I didn't expect Mike Williams, but I also didn't expect Keenan Allen because I've been on the Keenan Allen ride many times myself, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be really good, but no, no, thank you. It's not worth it. I do like Mike Williams, but Mike Williams is a boom bust play every week, no matter what. I've had him on teams before,
Yeah.
and I've played him before. I've won weeks with Mike Williams, like a lot of players won weeks with Mike Williams and their wide receiver 3 this week, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he can do that for you, but just keep in mind it's always a boom bust. No matter how good Mike Williams has been the weeks before, it's a coin flip boom bust.
Well, just looking at the defense in Baltimore, it's crazy. They've given up a lot of points, right?
Yeah, I guess they have, haven't they?
But they are tough against the run. They've only given up like 93, just over 93 yards per game, and so I think with Lamar, I think I think this might be another big Mike Williams game, and this might be another boom. It's so hard to,
Yeah.
it's crazy to see some of these players that are not names,
Yeah.
you know,
And Mike
really
Williams has
break
been
out.
around. Mike Williams
Yeah,
has been
yeah,
around though, like for years.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like his 4th or 5th year in the league.
I just forget which Mike
If
Williams it is. So
there was 2 for a while, but he's the
yeah,
taller one. Uh,
and that probably helps.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, and then they were both good that one season. That was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
The curly haired one was the other one.
Hey, we can call, how about we call this one To? He is
T-
Mike Taller One Williams.
Tying Taller one
There
Williams,
you go.
To. He's playing like To right now. That was a heck of a
Right.
game, though. I attribute that more to blown coverage than anything
Okay.
else. But this blown coverage, but wide receivers have been schemed open all year in this system, and Justin Herbert has just been delivering. Oh my goodness! Talk about MVP candidates. He's ahead of Kyler Murray in my book. I have them both in my top 3 for sure. But that is
And Josh Allen's right there too, I'm guessing, right?
he has to be. He's 4.
Oh, there you go. There you
He's
go.
outside the top 3. No, I will gladly sign the Josh Allen apology letter at the end of the season.
You gotta wait. You gotta wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. The running backs, Chargers running backs, have been up and down. This could be. I have Eckler in a few leagues, and I have to play him, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's going to have a good game. This might be, I they might have to go Mike Williams, and we'll see what Eckler does.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing Eckler, right? Everyone's playing. I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
you would have to be sitting really pretty to sit Eckler.
Yeah.
And the way, I don't know. I feel like Eckler is good. I feel like Eckler is good in this game because I trust this offense to move the ball. Like, I'm not even terribly concerned. Like, after 5 games, who ranks like that well against the run? And it's like, yeah, okay, but you're in some shootouts and you played a couple
Yep.
teams that aren't the best runners of the football, right?
Mhm.
They played Las Vegas when they were struggling, and they played the Chiefs. They didn't really run the football, you know.
Mhm.
But I trust the Chargers to move the ball, and I trust just the weapons, the 3 weapons on that offense right now: Williams and Eckler, and my boy Keenan Allen, who I don't draft but root for,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I like
Yeah.
the Chargers. They're a fun team, cool uniforms, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I trust Eckler this week. I trust the Chargers to put up points this week. This is the game of the week to watch, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and on the defense side of the ball, with the
uh,
Chargers, you got Joey Bosa, 2.5
Derwin
sacks.
James, maybe the
Yeah.
best safety in the NFL, Derwin James,
Yeah.
who can do everything and who can chase down Lamar, right?
Mhm.
So but he does a little bit of everything. He could also cover. He could cover Mark Andrews, and that would be a way to shut him down. I'm surprised actually. They must not have Derwin James on a lot of tight ends, which actually makes sense now that I think about it,
Mhm.
because you would expect him to shut them down. Yeah, I like this defense for sure, and I like what Bosa's probably going to have a little bit of a day. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's hard not to look at. I mean, with 2.5 sacks, and then also Kyler Fackrell on the other. He's got 2 sacks. So really,
Tackle.
they're getting that pass rush. They're getting the pressure, and so it'll be interesting to see the Ravens. What they do with Lamar. I don't know if they get many sacks in this game though.
Yeah, right, because he can just get away. Yeah.
I heard something crazy. Did you hear about how Lamar was thanking the ref from this past week?
What do you mean, like thanking him? Like he like did he like go up to him and like give him a little dab on the on the
Well, no, no,
sideline?
no. Like in the one of the press conferences, he thanked him because this was the first in like 2 years. This was the first roughing the passer penalty
Oh, interesting. And that
that
was
he
such a blatant roughing the passer penalty, right? That
right.
was like if it didn't get called, you're like, oh, come on. Interesting.
Yeah,
That is a narrative. I didn't know it was that bad though.
yeah, and so it was so bad that he thanked him, and Lamar is just very polite in the way he says things,
Yeah,
and I think sometimes when you have some of these players that just the way they play,
yeah,
it lends itself to not calling it, like in basketball, LeBron
yeah,
James, he's not going to get a lot of calls just because he's
yeah,
bigger and he has to
yeah.
flop to
And
get a
Lamar's
call.
massive too. Look at him on the field. He's a massive dude. He doesn't look like when he runs, but he runs like a small dude. But
Right.
he's a big man, and like yeah, it's kind of like I think this is an issue with Russell Wilson a little bit too. Cam Newton faced this a little bit as well.
Hmm.
Big Ben would have if he was good enough in the time when they used to care about roughing the passer.
Right. Right. Right.
But yeah, these bigger, stronger, fast quarterbacks have always kind of had this thing, and Lamar is the best moving quarterback we've probably ever seen. So I guess it does make sense a little bit.
Oh,
But you're right that it should
yeah.
if it's gonna get called like it needs to get called the same way for everyone, especially when you're standing in the pocket, right?
Hmm.
So that was an obvious call. If they didn't make it, then that would have really strengthened that that narrative to iron.
I really I wouldn't have any problems with any of these AFC teams in the Super Bowl. I
No,
like what Lamar brings. I love what Herbert brings. Um, the Browns are interesting
yeah,
defensively.
no, yeah.
These teams, they're just exciting. And then obviously you have the Bills, and I like what
And
they're
they're
doing.
probably the best team in the AFC right now. Yeah, we haven't done much talking about them, right? The
Right,
most
right.
complete team for sure. Talk about a good defense and a good offense. Yeah, the AFC is way cooler than the NFC, just objectively right now. Funner players,
It is.
better teams. They're just
Yeah,
it just feels like they're
yeah.
just better across the board, pretty much. Is what better quarterbacks.
So this could really be a toss up here. I
Oh
went
yeah,
back and forth, and I have the Chargers winning 34-31 on this one.
I'm gonna go Ravens 42-38.
Okay. Yeah,
We're just going for it. We're
you know
just going for it.
and I like that too. It's hard to root against, or not root against. It's hard to pick against Lamar. I mean, he just seems
Yeah.
he's got that, and it's so funny how he had that narrative that he couldn't win the big one, he couldn't win the playoff game, and
Yeah,
now
I
he's
mean, but
he's yeah, he's kind of coming doing these comebacks, right?
yeah, and that's like there are a lot of things that happen in playoff games. Like
Hmm.
a lot of quarterbacks take a few times. Took Peyton Manning a while, right? It didn't take Tom Brady any time. Didn't take Patrick Mahomes, but it took Aaron Rodgers a little while.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
until it didn't. Right?
right.
It's a different. You have to learn how to win in the NFL,
Hmm.
and then you have to learn how to win in the playoffs. Because a team that is a hardened usually has a pretty good defense and knows exactly what you want to do, right? And so the the Ravens run a very interesting play style. But if you really focus on it, like it can be countered. We saw the Chargers do it a couple of years ago, right? We see it every year, right? And that's not just on Lamar. That's on the play callers. That's on the team as a whole. Um, but I don't think that's a thing yet, honestly.
Right. So with this game, you have Lamar winning. I have Herbert winning,
Hmm.
and I this will be interesting. And I don't know. It takes a while for the whole MVP thing to really heat up and really.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
but this could really help Herbert if he wins this one. I think it could really push him into that discussion.
Oh yeah, and I believe he's already in the discussion, and I think it could push him to the top of it. I think whoever wins this game, unless it's kind of just one of those messy games that happens from time to time, and it's like 13-17 or whatever like that,
Right. Right. Right.
which it always could be. I think whoever wins this game is going to be the leader in the MVP race. Maybe up there with Tom Brady, who not enough people are talking about how good he's throwing the ball. No one's throwing the ball better than Tom Brady.
Right, right.
Zero quarterbacks are throwing the ball better than Tom Brady.
He
Um,
he
Go
did
ahead, sorry.
have he did have an interception tonight, but it was on a tip ball, and it was like a crazy. It was a fantastic,
Yeah, sure.
diving,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But really, he is, he's got command of the offense, and yeah, it really is going to be an interesting debate because yeah, Tom Brady is there,
Yeah,
and
he's probably the only one from the NFC. Oh, I guess Kyler Murray as well. Yeah.
it,
The reason I think it's going to be a high score is because both of these teams go back and forth. Like we've seen them, both these teams just put up furious rallies at the end. And I don't
Mhm.
know if this is likely, but I would very much like to see that happen at the same time, right? And just like maybe it was a 28 like to 31 game, then the last 5 minutes turned into a 40
Yeah,
point
yeah.
game, right? So yeah, that's what I was thinking anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And whatever, I think this is going to be another exciting week, and it really seems wide open this year, and I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of parity for sure. There's a lot of parity in the league this year. We can't pick. All right,
Mm-mm.
Browns, Bills, Chiefs aren't even in the conversation right now, but they're going
Yeah.
to surge at some point, right? Ravens, and then on the other side we got Packers are always going to be there. Bucks, probably the best roster in the NFL. Well, top three roster in the NFL,
Hmm.
regardless, right? And then yeah, it's hard to call because all these teams are running so well, so equally at the top of the league, and then there's like this steep drop off to the 2 and 3 teams that are just like, and you can tell there's just like when you watch them play, it's different, and any team can beat any team, and these are all professional athletes, and we saw the Vikings play the Cardinals really close, which looks
Hmm.
great, right? But we also saw the Lions play the Ravens really close, right?
Yeah.
It's anyone can play anyone close, but when you watch them, you can tell that these 4-1 teams just kind of got it right.
Well, yeah, and injuries can play a factor as well. I mean, in this
Yeah,
game, in
yeah.
the game tonight, Richard Sherman got hurt,
Oh, I
so
didn't know that. Oh
yeah,
no.
so he had a little bit of a hamstring, so he was
Oh,
out.
the
So
hammy. Oh, that'll be a few weeks.
right, right. So they've got offensively enough to win. Just kind of holding off for their defense to kind of get healthy. Cardinals need to get healthy as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Ravens just need to keep riding Lamar.
Yeah, and they have some people coming back soon. Bateman's probably coming back kind of soon.
Yeah, that'll be
That'll be
interesting.
fun. And
Yeah.
if you're desperate for a wide receiver, now is the time to pick Bateman up off the waiver wires. By the
Yes.
way, I know I say this same thing all the time, but pick him up a couple weeks early. Yeah,
Yep.
and these teams getting healthy is going to be a big step for them. What I really think it is, though, and this is very much a tangent, and I won't go too long on it.
Yeah.
So I wrote a piece for the new blog, the In My Unprofessional Opinion blog that I started
Hmm.
writing for recently, and it was about what we know about the NFL so far this year.
Hmm.
And one of the things I found when I was looking into that, right, there were 14 teams with winning records right now,
Hmm.
right? Two of them two of them are kind of what I would consider like a little bit of outliers, right? And they're going to regress to the mean. That's your Carolina and your Las Vegas.
Right.
Right,
Right.
I think like, and they're fine, but yeah, and Vegas, we'll see, Maybe it'll
Yep.
harden them. Sometimes hardship does that, right? And
Right.
there's two teams that I just think have elite rosters, and that that's the Rams and the Cowboys. Just elite top to bottom, like
Right.
borderline elite quarterbacks, but they're paying those quarterbacks right big money, and they
Yeah.
expended a lot to get to them. And the other 8 all have rookie scale contract quarterbacks.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, the other 8, and I can't list them all. I'm surprised I remembered the 4 that weren't in these 8, but every other one of them has a rookie scale contract. And look at all these best teams in the league right now, rookie scale contract, right? It's so much easier to fill out your roster when you have an extra $20 million. And oh, these kids are coming out real good lately, by the way. Oh my goodness, right? You're not mad to have any of them. Not, but there's misses every year, but it's just like emerging as, and we know this, right? Everyone knows rookie quarterback contract good. It's like the biggest talking point, right? And in like the
Best
NFL
value.
sphere, right? Exactly.
Yep. Yep.
But I don't know if people appreciate it enough, and I think teams clinging to quarterbacks not named Tom Brady, not named Aaron Rodgers, and paying them $30+ million a year are not impossible. Like, but those are teams that are almost certainly not going to be in the top 4 in the league. Like, it's just a massive uphill climb. And like yes, you can build an elite roster. You can build an elite roster around a Matt Stafford who's a very good quarterback. You can build an elite roster around a Dak who's a very good quarterback who might ascend. He's also in the MVP
Yeah, we don't
talk, by the way. Yeah, we didn't talk about him, right? He
Agreed.
could very well ascend, right? But he's being paid. He's not playing much better than these rookies, but he's being paid much higher than these rookies. That's the point, right? So he needs an elite, like that elite roster might start to erode, right? So you can do it, but that's the hard way. The easy way is very clearly get a good rookie and then use the $20 million to make your defense good, make your receivers good, get an offensive line to protect them. You know, that seems like very clearly the way to go. And I'll get off it now. I never shut up about it.
No, that's those are some great points, and
Yeah.
obviously you want to pair that, quarterback with a good, or at least a competent coach.
Yeah, play caller, coach, mentor,
Yep.
system,
System. Yep.
or like even, and it doesn't need to be like an offensive genius, like what's Harbaugh, special teams guy, doesn't matter, right? Because he's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. We facilitate the growth of our players. It doesn't matter what your identity is, as long as you're willing to take on that role and adjust your philosophy, right? Like a lot of the best coaches do.
Absolutely.
All right, I think that was a good one.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I'm excited for week 6 and excited to see how our picks will do. We'll have to. I'm keeping track.
We got to start. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. No, we got to start keeping track because I'm just throwing some nonsense out there all the time, and you're nailing them, right? And then no one knows. Like they
Hey,
give
that's
us
all right.
both the same amount of credibility.
I'm good with that. But yeah, so I'm writing your stuff down. We'll kind of look at
Okay.
it
Cool.
next week, and I'm excited then for our next show. We'll do the waiver wire stuff,
Yeah,
and
next Tuesday. Oh yeah,
yeah, another exciting week. So
another week we get to watch football on Sunday. There's not that many weekends a year you get to watch football on Sunday, and so it's a good one.
very good. Well, we'll see you. This is Outdated and Uneducated. You can find me at NFL Outdated on Twitter.
And Uneducated Takes on Twitter, you already know. Have a good one, y'all.